Hey y'all, I am back with a new What's for Dinner. I have filmed 5 nights of dinners for y'all, and all of these are really simple. We did a Hawaiian barbecue one night for the first time. I also made some crockpot soup beans. I have really been craving those. I also pulled out an oldie but a goodie. It's a family favorite. We like to call it Mayo Chicken. I also tried out a new oven baked barbecue rib recipe. I paired it with a loaded baked potato salad, and I found some of the best cream corn that money can buy. Can't wait to show y'all. And I also made this creamy ground beef orzo. So good. So stay with me. I'll share the recipes. Okay, so first up is the Hawaiian barbecue night. I have been wanting to try this out for the longest time. So here I'm just making the marinade for the chicken. It's just a half a cup of brown sugar, a half a cup of pineapple juice, a half a cup of soy sauce, and a half a cup of ketchup, a tablespoon of garlic powder, and a tablespoon of ginger paste. Did make sure to measure it this time because in the past I've added too much on accident and it completely overpowered the dish. But lastly, I just added in a little bit of salt and pepper, and then I whisked this until it was nice and smooth. And now I'm just going to start adding in my boneless, skinless chicken thighs. I absolutely love cooking with chicken thighs, and I'm using half of a family pack of chicken, so that's usually around like 7 to 8 thighs. But I'm just making sure they're all down in that marinade, and then I'm going to get this bowl covered with some cling wrap, and I'm going to set that in the fridge and let it marinate all day. It was in there for several hours. To go along with it, we're doing the Hawaiian macaroni salad. I was really excited about this, like more than the chicken, because I'm just such a sides person. So here is a half a box of elbow macaroni noodles cooked. I did drain those and rinse them under some cold water. Then I added in a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, 1 grated carrot. The recipe did call for 2 tablespoons of grated onion, but if you've watched me, you know I don't cook with onions, so I did substitute that with some onion powder, but I just gave that a good mix before adding in the dressing. So the recipe specifically called for Hellmann's mayo. It calls for 1¼ cups of the mayo, as well as 2 tablespoons of milk and a teaspoon of sugar. Lastly, just adding in some salt and black pepper to taste. And that is it. I'm just going to mix that together really good. When you first mix it up, it's going to seem like there's way too much mayo in it. It's going to look extremely creamy, but you know, if you cook with pasta, you know how quickly it absorbs like any sauce or dressing. So as it chills in the fridge, it will turn out the perfect consistency, I promise. But that's going in the fridge to chill for a few hours. And fast forward to dinner time. So I'm going to start by cooking up those marinated chicken thighs. So I did decide to cook these in my electric skillet. I like how much room it has in there. Anytime that I don't want to stand there and cook in batches, this is what I pull out. And, you know, I feel like it cooks things a little bit faster. I've talked about that in the past, and I just overall really like it. So I feel like this was perfect to cook the chicken thighs in. So I did heat it up with a little bit of olive oil first. I also saved the remaining marinade because there was just so much left. I thought that I could possibly use it again in the future. I could have swore people in the comments have told me in the past that I can freeze that and reuse it. Let me know if that's safe. I mean, I'll definitely Google it, look it up before I try to do that, but it is currently in the freezer. But yeah, so all the chicken thighs are in there. I would say it took around 10 to 12 minutes to fully cook all of these. I did go in and turn them after every couple of minutes because everything going on in that marinade and all the sugars is going to make it caramelize quickly. So if you want it to be like evenly browned, I definitely recommend constantly flipping it. And initially I was using a fork to flip those and I was having the awfulest time. And then I remembered that earlier in the year I bought these tweezer tongs, I think that's what they're called, for purposes like this. And that made it a whole lot easier to flip that chicken around. But I did add a lid to it during the last few minutes just to make sure that the insides were fully cooked. And here they are once they are done. I think that they are Absolutely beautiful. So here is my plate. I've got 2 of those chicken thighs. I did also cook up some white rice to go along with it. I've seen a lot of other people do that. I guess that's tradition to serve it with white rice like that. And then of course a big scoop of the Hawaiian macaroni salad. I topped everything with some dried chives and we absolutely love this. Love the marinade on that chicken. The chicken was tender and juicy, and we love that macaroni salad. It was nice to try out something different. Up next, I'm making soup beans in the crock pot. So I bought these dried cranberry beans at my Save-A-Lot a while back. I had never heard of those before or seen them, so I figured that I would give them a try. So the night before, I did sort through them, rinse them off really good, and I did also soak those overnight. So I did give those another rinse and drained them right before I was going to cook them. Added all of that into the bottom of my crock pot. That was a pound of dried beans, by the way. And I did add in some ham that I had in my deep freezer, probably from Easter. I'm not sure. I don't label everything too good. But you don't have to add in the ham if you don't want to, but I had it. I wanted to use it. Plus, ham and beans go so good together. I did add in 6 cups of water and then some onion powder, sea salt, and a black pepper. That is it. This is so very easy. The perfect dump and go crock pot meal. And I just absolutely love cooking dried beans in the crock pot because you don't have to worry about them boiling dry like you would on a stove. And it's just a really nice set it and forget it type of meal. I did add on the lid and I ended up cooking these on high for 5 hours and they cooked up perfectly. They were so nice and tender and this is just so cozy and comforting to me. I was raised eating a lot of soup beans, so it's always got like a really special place in my heart and I just had the biggest craving for these. So I was so excited to add these to the meal plan. But to go along with it, I am going to cook up this box of honey cornbread. I absolutely love this specific one. I used to not even eat sweet cornbread, but this one right here has converted me. And I also heated up this can of collard greens. I just cooked it with some butter, salt, and pepper. But here's how I ended up plating everything up. I've got a bowl of the beans. I will say, though, I did accidentally over salt the beans a little bit. So I'll be more careful next time, but still really good. Of course, the cornbread was good. I added a little butter on it after this clip. And I think this is my first time buying the collard greens from the can, and I really, really like that. And it went so good with the beans and cornbread. Up next, I'm making what we call Mayo Chicken. I found this recipe several years ago, and it's just one that's always stuck with us. We've always loved it, and it is the most simple recipe, very low effort. I typically always have the ingredients on hand. It's just one of those meals that is perfect for those busy days. A couple of days ago, actually, I was flipping through my mother-in-law's like old magazine clippings, and I actually found this exact recipe in there, which I thought was really cool. So that just tells me that this recipe is really old. It's been around a long time and it's well loved. So now on to the actual recipe. So I just take 2 boneless, skinless chicken breasts. I like to slice them in half to make 4 pieces, and plus I just like my chicken to be on the thinner side anyways. But I just season them on both sides. This night I ended up going with some adobo. I'm newer to using that and I've just really been loving it. Really good on chicken. The original recipe actually doesn't even call for the chicken to be seasoned, but that's just something extra that I like to do. But got those laid out in a 9x13 casserole dish, and then for the topping, you just combine a 1/2 cup of mayo. I did use Hellmann's, and a 1/4 cup of shredded Parmesan cheese. I did shred it myself, but it's also good with the bag kind that you can pick up. And then I'm just going to evenly distribute that mayo cheese mixture on top of each piece of chicken. And then with the back of my spatula, I'm just going to get it evenly spread out. That mayo just does something magical to the chicken. It just keeps it so juicy and it just gives it such a nice flavor. Like, whoever came up with this is genius, seriously. And then lastly, you just take some Italian style breadcrumbs and you just slightly sprinkle it over that mayo Parmesan cheese mixture. I also have my oven preheated to 425 degrees and I'm just going to let this bake bake for 20 minutes. Here's what it looks like straight out of the oven. As you can see, the breadcrumbs get really nice and golden brown. It might not be the prettiest dish, but I sure do love the smell of it. Like baking in my kitchen smells so good. I ended up pairing it with some homemade mashed potatoes and some brown gravy and some green beans. Really simple dinner, but we always absolutely love it. I've definitely shared this recipe a couple times on my channel in the past, but let me know in the comments if you had tried this chicken recipe. Here I am trying out a new barbecue rib recipe. So I've had these ribs in my deep freezer for at least a good year. I bought them at Kroger when they had a buy one get one free sale. But I'm going to start by making the dry rub. So that's a 1/4 cup of brown sugar, a 1/2 tablespoon each of garlic and onion powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, a 1/2 tablespoon of chili powder, a teaspoon of cumin, a tablespoon of smoked paprika, and then optional is a 1/2 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. As always, if I follow a recipe, you can find it in my description box. I don't expect anybody to remember all that, but I just took a fork and got that all mixed together real good. And now I've got my ribs out of the package and on a big piece of tin foil to kind of reduce, a mess. I took a paper towel and dried these ribs off good, and you're always supposed to remove the membrane on the back of ribs, but I swear these Kroger brand ones just don't have it on there. I had this same issue with the last pack that I bought as well, so I truly just don't think they're on there. I don't know. But I'm just finishing drying those off good, and then I'm going to take half of that dry rub and just pour it over the back side of those ribs. And as you can see, I'm just taking my hands and kind of patting that in there, trying to cover it the best that I can. I'm flipping those over on the top side and just pouring the remainder dry rub on there. And I'm just taking my hands and kind of pushing it up the sides the best that I can and pressing it in good. I do love how well these are seasoned. I love some really good seasoned ribs. But now I'm just going to take that tin foil and tightly wrap up these ribs. You want as little steam as possible to escape. So just doing my best to tightly pack that up. Going to transfer that to a cookie sheet. I do have my oven preheated to 275 degrees. And I'm going to let those bake for 2 hours. So while those are baking, I'm going to get started on the loaded baked potato salad because these are going to need to chill in the fridge. So here I've got 2 pounds of russet potatoes that I have peeled, washed, and chopped, and I'm just going to boil those in salted water until they are fork tender, and then I'm going to drain those off and just let those cool down in the sink. Meanwhile, in a mixing bowl, I'm going to add in 1 cup of sour cream, a 1/2 cup of mayo, and then you need a packet of ranch seasoning mix. So I buy the big bottle, either at Costco or Walmart. So for me, I'm adding in 3 tablespoons of the ranch seasoning, which equals a packet. And with my spatula, I'm just going to mix that up together real good. I did also cook up some bacon in the oven. The recipe calls for 6 slices. I made extra for my daughter. She absolutely loves bacon, but I just baked that at 400 degrees for 25 minutes, and it turns out perfect every single time. So now that my potatoes are mostly cooled off, I'm going to add them in that bowl with the dressing. I did shred up a block of sharp cheddar cheese, so I'm adding in about a cup, I'd say, in with the potatoes. The recipe calls for green onions, but I always substitute that with dried chives, so I added in a good amount there. And with my spatula, I'm just going to fold everything together, making sure that that ranch dressing is coating all of the potatoes. It is important to let your potatoes cool down quite a bit, or else your cheese will just melt and turn into a big glob. And also, I feel like cooling the potatoes helps the potatoes hold their shape, in my opinion. Now, I ended up transferring this to a casserole dish. I typically don't do that with potato salads. I would just serve it out of that bowl, but I figured that it would give a little bit more surface area for this chopped bacon. So I also think it looks a lot nicer, but I'm just doing my best to evenly spread that bacon out. And then I'm just going to add a little bit more shredded cheese over the top to kind of garnish it. And then a little bit more of those dried chives. And that is it. I actually consider that pretty simple, if you ask me. But I got that covered up, going in the fridge for a couple of hours. So here's those ribs after 2 hours of cook time. I'm going to fold that tinfoil back, and you're going to want to drain a lot of that grease out. So the way that I have been doing that lately is by just taking my turkey baster and kind of sucking it up out of there. I feel like that's a pretty mess-free way of doing it. But as you can see, it filled up a good portion of that coffee cup. I got a lot of that out there. But next, you're just going to grab whatever barbecue sauce that you want to. We love Sweet Baby Ray's, so I added a good thick amount to the top, and I'm just taking my silicone spatula and just getting that evenly spreaded out. I have my oven on the broiler setting now, and I'm going to pop that in for about 5 minutes. So while that's in there, I'm going to talk to y'all about this frozen Mackenzie's creamed corn. I bought this at Walmart, and I learned about this from Miranda on TikTok, the Stay Classy Miranda. I'm sure a lot of y'all know who I'm talking about, but she was so right. This is the best cream corn that you can buy. Canned cream corn does not compare to this. This tastes like some fresh summer garden corn. You just let it thaw out in your skillet. I put some butter, salt, and pepper in there. Amazing. Here's those ribs after they are completely done. I think those look absolutely beautiful. After I let those ribs rest for about 10 minutes, I did go in and slice them. So I've got 2 of those. Y'all, this potato salad was amazing. You've got to give it a try. It was so good, especially in this hot summer weather. I've got a bowl of that cream corn. I sprinkled pepper over the corn and the potato salad. Now, as for these ribs, they were good. We liked them, but I've honestly just made better in the past. I prefer like a fall off the bone rib. I don't know. I swear it's the quality of the meat. Like, I love Kroger, but the last 2 times that I've used the Kroger brand ribs, I'm just not impressed with the meat quality. Let me know if any of y'all have that same problem. Lastly, I tried out this creamy ground beef orzo, and we really enjoyed it. It was such a good way to use and stretch a pound of ground beef. So I started off in a large skillet, and I'm just breaking up that meat, and I like to go in at the halfway point and season my meat. I know quite a few people are against that, and I get it, but I just swear it just seasons the meat better in my opinion, so I will forever be doing it this way. But I seasoned it with salt, pepper, and onion powder. And I'm just going to let that finish off cooking, drain the grease, and then I'm going to add in a couple spoonfuls of minced garlic, a half a teaspoon of crushed red pepper, and a half a teaspoon of Italian seasoning. Here I've added in a cup of uncooked orzo. If you've never cooked with orzo before and you don't know what it is, it's just like a short pasta. But I did saute that in with the garlic and the beef for a good minute before adding in a can of tomato sauce, 3/4 of a cup of beef broth. I did a few good shakes of Worcestershire sauce and a cup of heavy whipping cream. I'm going to get all of this mixed together good, and I'm going to wait for it to start bubbling. I've got it on about a medium-high heat, I'd say, and once it reaches this consistency right here, as you can see, it's just slightly bubbling. You don't want it to boil too hard or it'll like evaporate and not cook your pasta properly, but I let that cook for about 10 minutes, stirring often, and then I took it off the heat, added a half a cup of Parmesan cheese and about 2 big handfuls of some fresh baby spinach. And I'm just getting everything folded together. The heat from the dish is going to wilt down that spinach pretty quickly. I did also add in some salt and pepper to taste. I did almost forget that. But once I get that stirred in, I'm going to add a lid and just leave it alone untouched for about 5 minutes. That way the spinach can continue kind of cooking, letting that cheese melt down, all the things. But here's what it looks like when it is done. It actually makes quite a bit, as you can see, which, again, just such a great way to stretch a pound of ground beef. And I served it with some cheesy garlic bread. My kids have been loving that lately, and it paired so perfectly with this. This honestly tastes so similar to, like, an Italian hamburger helper. Kind of reminds me of the lasagna hamburger helper, which we personally love. I would totally make it again. Definitely a new family favorite. Really easy. Topped it with some Parmesan cheese, and yeah, that is all the dinner ideas I got for you today. I do hope that you enjoyed the video. I hope this was helpful, and as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have the best weekend, and I'll see y'all next time.